All right, guys, today I want to tell you how to make a perfect circle on a bandsaw. It's going to be super easy. We do need to do a couple things first. We need to make a jig to clamp right onto the bandsaw table. So to do that, you want to start off with a board that is just a little bit bigger than the table and a little bit wider than whatever piece you need. So if you want to, let's say, a 16-inch wide piece, maybe go 150% of that. So maybe go 24 inches wide. So this is a piece of scrap we have. And what we want to do, we want to get a few lines drawn on here. Okay, so we're going to come straight in with the bandsaw one part. It's basically like making a zero clearance insert. So we're going to come straight in about halfway. So this piece is 17. So we'll go 8.5 inches in. Draw a line. That line, we'll try to get it to go all the way across. You guys aren't going to be seeing this. I'll switch over to a marker so you guys can see this. Okay. And come in, I don't know, maybe 6 inches or so. So, what we're going to do here, we're going to go over to the bandsaw, and you'll see when I go over there. We're going to cut straight in to this point, just as if we were making a zero clearance insert. If you don't know what that is, we'll have another video in a little while talking about it. So we'll cut straight in, and we're going to clamp this down to the table. Before we do, we need to add one more thing. We're going to add a pivot point. Okay, to make a circle, we're going to use this as a jig, and we're going to spin it on a pivot. So the board that I've cut is just a piece of scrap OSB. Okay, scrap piece of board, and this board is 17 inches wide. So let's make a 16-inch circle. I like to leave everything, when you're making rough cuts, I like to leave it an inch large in each direction. So we'll make a 16-inch circle. So of course we could measure to find the center of 17, and the center of 17, but I think the easiest way to do this is just to mark corner to corner. And this scrap represents whatever you'd want to make a circle out of. So if you're making a tabletop or a wheel, you'd want to be doing all of this work on the worst side. So if it were a tabletop, this would be the bottom. Okay, so we're going to end up drilling a small hole partially into this, but not all the way through. So incidentally, in case you didn't know, a super easy way to find the center of any square or rectangular board that has all 90s is just draw marks corner to corner. Okay, corner to corner. And this was 17 inches, so the center should be 8.5 inches, and it is exactly 8.5 right here. So we're good. So now we found our center, and again, this represents the blank for whatever we're making a circle out of. We're going to take, and we need to drill a hole in there that corresponds with the hole that we're going to drill in here. We said we're going 60 inches in diameter. So what we're going to do on this board is measure over the radius of our circle. Okay, so we're going to measure over 8 inches. Eight inches right here. Okay. Well, so we've got where the blade's going to come in. We've got our pivot point at 8 inches across, and you'll see when we go over there, you'll see the way this whole thing works. It'll make a lot of sense once we get there. We'll drill a hole in here. Okay, now, what hole are we actually drilling? So, this is going to act as a pivot that we will rotate our board on. You'll see how it all works in a minute. So, for that pivot, you could use anything. You could use a dowel, you use a small pin, you could use a bolt, you could use a screw, you could use a nail. The main idea is that it has to be able to be fixed a certain distance out. And if you use a dowel or a pin like I am, this hole has to match the pin, has to match that hole. So I'm using a 3/8 pin. It's a nice tight friction fit. Just stuck it in a hole. Now, next thing, we take our blank, using that same size drill bit that has the same diameter as our dowel or pin. We'll go to the back where we put our X on it. And you want to be very careful. You don't want to go all the way through this. Just a third to half is fine. All right, so we're ready. We'll go over to the bandsaw and I'll show you guys how to set everything up and cut this out. All right, so the next thing we want to do is we want to go ahead and take our board with the pin in it, and we're going to cut straight in on our line to the midpoint of the board. We want our pin to the right. All right, so we got this on there. We're going to get a clamp. We're going to clamp this on. Be careful, you don't want it to twist on the blade at all. All right, so we'll take our board, X in the back. Now, this, from the blade over to the pin, is our radius of what we want, so 8 inches. The board is 17. If you cut it exactly 16, you should be able to slide your board in and set it on. But if everything's not exactly perfect, you could have a flat spot on one side of your circle. So I like to cut it a little bit larger, but it does make it more difficult to get your board set on your pin. So we're going to try to slide this on here and slowly move that hole towards the left until we fall on top of the pin. You do not want this hole to end up on the left-hand side of that pin, or you'll be cutting in your inside of the circle. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, we've got it on the pin. We're going to hold it down. Slowly rotate it. All right, there we go. Perfect circle. Super easy to make. See our hole. Hole did not go all the way through. Good flat surface. Very, very simple. You probably noticed this was sitting up off the table just a little bit. You know, if you needed something to be perfectly square on the edge, you'd have to trim this peg down a little bit, and that's fine. For the demonstration purposes, I really didn't care. So, perfect circle, super easy to make. Doubles as a zero clearance insert, helps keep that blade from wandering around. So, pretty easy.